And with that, I have asked my friend Mary Margaret to please read the preamble.
Hello, I'm Mary Margaret. I'm an alcoholic, and this is the AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of people who share their experience, strength, and hope for each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Margaret. I appreciate your service every week. I really do. And I have asked my friend Biddy to please read the first paragraph to the forward to the first edition. And Biddy. Is she there?
Thank you. I couldn't unmute. I had
Oh
to
dear.
unmute. My name is Biddy. I'm a recovered alcoholic. The forward to the first edition. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how I've recovered is the main purpose of this book. For them, we hope these pages will prove to be so convincing that no further authentication will be necessary. We think this account of our experiences will help everyone to better understand the alcoholic. Many do not comprehend that the alcoholic is a very sick person. And besides, we're sure that our way of living has its advantages for all.
Biddy, thank you so much. I really appreciate your service tonight. The following reading is from the forward to the second edition, found at the top of page XX, Roman numeral 20 in the fourth edition. While the internal difficulties of our adolescent period were being ironed out, public acceptance of AA grew by leaps and bounds. For this, there were two principal reasons: the large number of recoveries and the reunited homes. These made their impressions everywhere. Of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapses, and among the remainder, those who stayed on with AA showed improvement. Other thousands came to a few AA meetings and at first decided they didn't want the program. But great numbers of these, about 2 out of every 3, began to return as time passed. This is the preamble for the Walk the Walk. The Walk the Walk is now a 1 hour and a half speaker discussion meeting. This is not a frothy emotional appeal meeting that many experience in AA. This is a solution-based speaker discussion meeting focusing on God, the text, and the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. If you are not familiar with the solution or you suffer from contempt prior to investigation, we ask that you set aside any prejudice that you may have and allow yourself to open up the possibility of having a new and possibly very profound experience with God or a higher power of your choice. Each week, a qualified guest speaker will share their experience with the text and the 12-step process. A qualified speaker is one who has been led through the 12 steps as they are in the Big Book and has had a spiritual awakening as the result of that process. A quick note about profanity. We don't encourage it, nor do we discourage it. Therefore, you may or you may not hear some. We cannot determine that. We only ask that you do your best to not let it distract you from the message being carried here tonight. And with that, I will hand the meeting over to my brother Derek, who is going to introduce our first 10-minute speaker.
Derek Alcoholic, what up, my people? What up, y'all? Y5, Y5, Y5. Yeah. So this first speaker, you know, I got a chance to talk with him earlier. And one thing I love when I speak to anybody, you know, who it is, I don't care who it is in our fellowship, is to hear the sound of joy in their voice, you know, and the conversation was a very, it just brought me so much joy and brought my spirit up to talk to this brother, you know, and I know he shared with me some of his journey, so I won't give you a spoiler alert, but you know, I will say, you know, I'm very excited to hear from this brother. So I'm going to introduce to some, reintroduce to others. Matt B, take it over, bro.
Hey everybody, I'm Marty. I'm alcoholic. I don't know why my name says Matt right here, but first of all, a big hello to Chris from Baltimore. and just say it's really good to be here. I'm really grateful to have been asked to do anything for this program. And I was told 10 minutes on steps 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to fire off the gate. I have no idea what that's going to look like. We'll see. I have a timer on though. And so just to be really quick, I have the obsession. I have the physical allergy. It wasn't like that when I first started to drink. And for me, that phenomenon of craving developed over time. And I got to AA and I identified out like crazy. You know, I heard people telling their stories, and what I was picturing was not what they were talking about. I'm picturing like someone takes a sip of Jack Daniels and suddenly they wake up and it's like 4 days later and they have no idea where they are. And for me, that's not what it looked like. For me, it looked like I go to a bar with some friends. And I say, okay, I got to drive home from the bar. So I'm going to have 2 drinks, maybe 3. And I'm going to sit there and we're going to have a good night. And then when I get home, I can drink as much as I want, you know, because I wasn't really a bar social drinker. And so I go to the bar and I have 2, and of course I have 3, and of course I have 4, and then a 5th one because I tell myself I'm going to stay there long enough to drive home. And then I'm popping Xanax in the bathroom because that doesn't count on a breathalyzer. And suddenly I'm like speeding down the road after like 45 minutes of being at this bar because I know I'm going to get drunk if I'm there. That's what that looked like for me. And I also did identify it out with people talking about the mental obsession. For me, I just thought that I need to assert my willpower properly, and that I kept changing my mind over and over. And thank God for good sponsorship. I met somebody who connected me with these, who put my own experience in the right words that I could understand. And he had me make like all these different lists of things, like lists of times I experienced the phenomenon of craving, lists of times I experienced the mental obsession, all these different like lists of things. And I came in here, I was one of those violently anti-religious people when I got here. You know, I had definitely an overdose of religious education, and I hated it, and I blamed God. And then I hit a point where I'm like, God just isn't real. Why would all this horrible stuff that's happening to me, that I'm doing, that I'm causing, why would God let that happen? If there's no God. I kind of rejected that idea. Completely rejected that idea. And I kept trying to bring, and he told me, I want you to say these 2 specific prayers every morning and every night. It was to ask God to help me stay consistent in seeking the power, basically. And I keep trying to say, I'm like, I don't really believe in God. I believe it. And it's, you know, again, thank God for good sponsorship. I wouldn't be here if it was not for good sponsorship. He would say, I didn't ask you what you believed in. I told you to say the words. And until we got to talking about step 2, he sidestepped every time I was trying to bring up God and talk about God with him. Because really what I was doing is I was looking for an argument. I wanted to bring my best, you know, intellectual arguments for why this God stuff is nonsense. It's not going to work for me and blah, blah, blah. And this man wanted me to get a full understanding of the reality of my condition before we started talking about God. You know, one of my favorite speakers always talks about how like a salesman doesn't say the price until he establishes value. And that's absolutely what it was like for me, because I had to have it put in my own context and really see like how unmanageable is my life. And we get to this place where we're reading the bedevilments, and he has to make lists of where all those things are true in my life at that point in time. You know, I was about 3 months sober. Where's this stuff true? And all of it's like just all over the place, right? I'm emotionally a mess. I'm prey to misery and depression. I'm full of fear, all those things. And I'm 3 months sober at that point in time. I'd been sober for 3 months. And he started talking about how clearly what this means is that alcohol was not my problem. My internal sober condition is my problem. Alcohol was my solution to that. And I started to have some hope that this stuff might work for me. And we read agnostics, and there were some lines in that chapter that just spoke to me like nothing had ever spoken to me. I can't connect it any other way. It just clicked in a way that nothing ever had. And at the end of reading that chapter, he gave me this list of 3 options. And it said, in my own writing and my own experience, I'm left with these 3 options. Option 1, I have the power to control my drinking and manage my life. Option 2, I don't have the power to control my drinking or manage my life, but the power does exist outside of me. And option 3, I don't have the power, nor does the power exist. Basically, I'm screwed, right? It's a wrap. I'm done. And I'm looking at these three options, and I know one isn't true. I mean, I have a notebook full of me trying to control my drinking and manage my life, and one's out. And if I truly believe that three is my answer, that three was true, I would have killed myself a long time ago. Because I woke up every morning for a long time wishing I was dead and didn't have the courage to do it, because I think in the back of my mind, I hoped something would work. And from there, one of my favorite metaphors in the big book is it's talking about, it paints like this kind of image of somebody who's like being thrust down like a river and bobbing up and down and drowning. And he grabs onto a flimsy reed, and it says it's proven to be the powerful and loving hand of God. And that line speaks to me like no other, because for me, it was just, I become willing to admit that maybe there was something out there that would look out for me. And from there, it just grew and grew and grew. And by the time we started talking about, 3 and I embarked on 4, I just had hope that it was real. I really hoped that it was real. And I remember I was like in his living room, we were doing like, the step 3 stuff, was reading 60, 63, all that jazz. And I said, man, I'm really afraid this isn't going to work for me. And he was a lot more lively and theatrical back then. He like slammed his fist on the table and he goes, "What do you think makes you so effing special?" I was like, okay. And we had that conversation. And when we talked about 3 and I embarked on step 4, he said, "I want you to look for evidence of God. I want you to look for, and he said, you've been running around your whole life, regardless of what you believed in, acting and living as if there's no God, and you've seen the results you've gotten." I mean, I have a notebook of the results I've gotten. I'm not a high bottom alcoholic. I did not, come in here just killing it with like the job and the money, but, I was internally in despair. No, internally and externally bad, right? Like I came in here crashing and burning pretty hard. And, he said, so that's where it's gotten you. He said, now, regardless of what you currently think you believe in, I want you to run around life living as if there is a God, and measure look at the results on paper, the results you get, and he told me what that looks like, at that point, what it looks like is helping people even when I don't want to, even when it's inconvenient, being honest, even when it doesn't do me well. That was a hard one to get behind. You mean be honest for the sake of being honest, be humble for the sake of being humble. And that was what it took. And so much grew from that little bit. Since I'm not really supposed to go past 3, I'm just going to go into what that kind of looks like in my current life. My previous sponsor always used to say something that I just love. And he said, the 12 steps are not tools which are meant to restore us to management. Because I get through the steps and things look real. I mean, my first year, things got really good. Like I feel okay in myself. Definitely getting some of the external stuff back, but I never felt comfortable in my own skin. And things just looked really, really good. And of course, naturally, I started to take some things back. I started to think I can manage some stuff. The first thing being my time. I think I can manage my time like nuts, and suddenly, I get to a point where I'm like a year and 9 months sober, and I'm in full management mode, and I want to blow my brains out. And I'm sponsoring like 8 guys, and I'm lying to all of them about how I'm doing. And my ego won't let me tell my sponsor I'm miserable, because I'm like Mr. AA walking around here is like, I'm the guy, completely obsessed with that, completely like just shut off from everything. There was a period of time for a month when my sister was in the hospital and I didn't even think about it. I didn't show up. I remember thinking it was really inconvenient. And that's the Mr. AA sponsoring 8 guys. That's what was going on, because I thought I could manage my life. And I started to think God isn't going to take care of me in some areas, and my relationship with God had started to become transactional. Hey, God, I'm helping your kids now. Like, where's the girlfriend? Where's the money? I'm doing this stuff. Where is mine? When am I going to get mine? And I'm just really, really thankful that pain brought me to taking some action and not a drink. I called my sponsor and got honest because I was too miserable not to. And the first thing he told me is to call, and this is what me and Derek were talking about on the phone today. He told me to call every one of those 8 guys and tell them I'm really struggling, and this is exactly where I'm at, because I had to shatter that ego. I had to really, at a year and 9 months sober, my belief in God was still a flimsy reed, and it wasn't cutting it at that point. I think that's a really good place to start to build that spiritual structure. But for me, I had lapsed on improving my spiritual condition. And my roommate sitting next to me is giving me the signal that it's been 10 minutes. But again, like, I'm just so grateful to be here and part of this fellowship and be asked to be here. It's really amazing. Thank you, guys.
Matt B, man, that was an awesome share. Awesome share. I love it. Willing to be willing, man. I can't tell you how many times I have had to reduce it to that, just praying, God, please give me the willingness just to be willing to do this deal. That's absolutely beautiful. Okay, guys. Let's see. AA has a 7th tradition. Mike L, please listen up, my friend. I'm using the proper vernacular here. AA has a 7th tradition, which states we are fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions, which means AA relies solely on the contributions of its members. We are not currently accepting contributions at the Walk the Walk, but we encourage you to contribute at any open meeting you attend or online at aa.org. And if you don't have a buck for the basket, that is A-OK. We would rather have your butt in the seat than your buck in the basket, so please just stick and stay. We also have 2 other meetings throughout the week. On Tuesday, the Big Book Revealed, and on Thursday, the Big Book Trudge, where Bobby and I share the lead. Bobby also has a Facebook page and a website dedicated to the Big Book Revealed and the Big Book Trudge. There you will find links to other sources as well as links to recorded meetings. I will drop these links with the passwords in the chat for you right now. Coming right up. 2 seconds. Boom, boom, and boom. And there they are. We would love it if you guys would come join us. A whole lot of fun is had there. And do we have any Big Book Stumpers here tonight? Anybody here a fan of the Big Book? All right, guys, because this is the time. I'm a big fan of the Big Book. We are big fans of the Big Book here, and it is time for the Big Book Thumper Stumper. Each week, I will read a sentence or two from the first 164 pages. I see you over there, Derek. I'll read a sentence or two from the first 164 pages, including the doctor's opinion. I will leave a particular part blank. The first person to write in the chat box the word or words left out wins and becomes this week's Big Book Thumper Stumper champion. Here are the rules, just to be clear. Spelling does not count. Spelling does not count. However, if the word is book and you write magazine, you blew it, you missed it by a mile. It's got to be close to book, okay? The other thing is that it's got to be in the open chat for everybody to see it, okay? Every once in a while, someone sends me a DM, and unfortunately, when that happens, it's disqualified. The other thing is that simultaneously, sometimes 3 or 4 people will come in at the same time, and it may appear on your end that Derek came in first. But on my end, it was Biddy. So we're going to refer to the official chat box, okay, which is my chat box. And I'm hoping, I can't wait, someone will challenge me on this so I can take a screenshot and send it off to you. Keep me honest here, guys. Someone challenging me, let me send you a screenshot of this deal. All right, so here we go. This is out of Into Action. I'm going to give you a hint. It's out of step 10, okay? And here it is. We vigorously commenced this way of living as we cleaned up the past. We have entered the world of the spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and blank. Understanding and blank. We should see a look at them flying in there. Nice, nice. Awesome. Let's see who was first. All right, on my end, I have Carol Innes, Silver Springs, Maryland. Congratulations. You are this week's Big Book Thumper Stumper champion. We are going to FedEx the crown to you. You can wear it all week. You can brag. You can gloat. You can do whatever you want with it. You just got to come back next week to defend your title. Congratulations. Okay, guys, it is time for me to introduce the main speaker tonight. And it's truly an honor to introduce this gentleman. I know tonight he is celebrating an anniversary. We were talking about this earlier. It's 35 years. I don't think he needs any more of an introduction. I think we all know why we're here tonight. So with that, I'm going to shut up and I will hand the meeting over to my buddy, Chris R. The floor is yours, sir.
Let me get that. I'm in. Yay. Thank you so much, Eric. I appreciate that. My name is Chris R. I am a very grateful recovered alcoholic. My sober date is November 13th, 1987, which freaks me out. Yeah. It's funny that I'm doing this tonight. I'm just going to say, guys, it was about this time, Central Standard Time. We're an hour earlier. And that was about this time that old geezers were getting around me kind of to show me what the truth was. Matt did such a good job talking about that. Well, I mean, I'm watching the clock, guys. I got 30 minutes. Let me just tell you real quick. I was raised up here in the hill country, and Kerrville's about what, 60, 65 miles northwest of San Antonio. We're right in the center of Texas, and identical twin brother. I've got two sisters that are not alcoholic. My father was an alcoholic. He's the nicest, sweetest guy you'd ever come across, and he was a craftsman, a lithographer, just wonderful guy. And he was a periodic. He could stay sober for periods of time, and then he'd bring home a 6-pack of Slits, and we knew the siege was on. And gosh, just, I don't know. He moved us. I got hit in the eye with a rock, guys. I'll just tell you, I don't talk about it that much. I don't ever even think about it, but some people ask it. It's, I get out in a little rock fight. I was what, 11 years old. And I mean, if I'd had a bottle of vodka at 11, I probably would have had 2 eyes. Y'all understand? I was as irritable, restless, and discontent as I could be. And no goofy stuff in my family, folks. There's no trauma to talk about. It's just, we front row of the Baptist church every time the door was opened. I've worked with gazillions of little alcoholics just like me. Big push out there. Everybody wants to put trauma. You know, I'm an alcoholic because I was traumatized. I'm sorry, that's not true. And I'll fight with anybody that wants to. I'm not saying that didn't exacerbate it and make it worse. I'm saying it didn't cause it. We're either going to talk about alcoholism as a disease, or we're going to talk about it like a behavioral problem. And it's amazing to me how many people in Alcoholics Anonymous still don't believe it. They call it a disease. They'll say it, but verbalize it, but they don't believe it any more than the man in the moon. They still believe it's causal. I wouldn't be an alcoholic if you hadn't have done this. It's just, I know too many people, folks, that have had horrible things happen to them that didn't become alcoholics. So I don't know why I felt compelled to say that, but on the phone with people all day today with that going on. And so Pops moved us to the hill country, and perfect, again, nice little childhood, fishing on the Guadalupe River down here. And every time I drive into town, I pass the place I had my first drink. January 1971. It's easy for me to remember because that was the month and the year that Bill Wilson passed away, the co-founder. I picked up a bottle of Boone's Farm apple wine. A buddy of mine had stolen a little bottle. Yeah, every old hippie in here is smiling. All you kids are looking like, Boone's what? Boone's who? Yeah. They say they still make it. I haven't seen it in years, but God dang, it'll get you downtown. All right, I'm just saying. And me and a friend drank a couple of sips. He didn't like it. Told me I could have the rest of the bottle, and I finished it. And it's the first time I'd had enough alcohol in my system to change the way I felt. I'd had sips of my dad's drink, but before beer, but not this. Yeah. And I walked back across that field, big old full moon up there, and cold, and not Yankee cold, but colds for Texas. And just with a clear understanding, buddy, why Dad drank. And I made a commitment I was going to do it the rest of my life. And high school football the next year, parties on the weekends, just it was no big deal, guys. I wasn't robbing liquor stores or taking my clothes off, or but I was drinking, and sometimes I'd drink too much, but usually it's holding it together pretty well. And I was in my 50th high school reunion a few weeks ago, and I was sitting there next to a guy that I used to drink with in high school. And I remember him one night, he got up and he walked through the bonfire. It was a little fire we had out in the park, and he walked through, and I said, "Buddy, are you okay?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm going home. I'm done with this." I said, he'd just been accepted to the University of Texas, and he's got a career coming. And he said, this is going to affect me. I'm going to stop. And I'm like, oh my gosh, rock on. Okay. And he did. And he's a gazillionaire now. He's a wonderful guy. And I wish I could have done that. There's many times I could see the writing on the wall, and I couldn't stop. I could stop for short periods of time. Till the very end, I could stop. Yeah. I could stop for 2 weeks for an ugly woman. I've stopped for 2 weeks just to piss you off. You know what I'm saying? I'll show you, and I can do that. I can't stay stopped, folks. Just exactly what Matt was talking about earlier. Those bedevilments start to come back, and that internal discomfort starts to percolate to the top. And I mean, guys, alcohol, just like he said, is not the problem. It is the solution. And I got to tell you, that'll get you beat up in some AA groups because they don't believe that. If you just don't drink, everything will be okay. That's not my experience. Because I can just not drink for short periods. Anyway, went to Houston, was in the food business. God dang, guys, I was pretty successful, pretty talented. Most of the alcoholics that I've ever come across are talented beyond belief in some areas. We're a fine bunch. And I think God just, I'm going to give you a fatal illness, and I'm also going to make you really talented. We can do things that a lot of other people can't. But I started making some geographics, and I got accepted in an apprenticeship program in Houston, and then went to Austin, Texas. God, I borrowed money to move to Austin. I had a sous chef's job at a country club, and I'm chasing. I'm afraid I'm drinking too much in Houston. It's kind of catching up. It's kind of looking odd. And so I moved to Austin. Of course, they don't drink in Austin or anything like that. And I'm a mess. I was there a couple of years, moved to Atlanta, Georgia, which I loved dearly, and had to leave about a year in. They don't sell liquor on Sundays back then. What's a drunk gonna do? And change careers, moving around. I'm big for geographics. I had about a guy's 13, 14 year history of drinking, and I'm moving around. No matter how many fingers I've got, I'm blaming you. Y'all understand? I'm pointing at you. Y'all are why I'm drinking, and it's the boss. It's this. It's that. If I could just. How many of y'all have done that? If I could just get that job, everything would be okay. If I could just get that woman, everything would be okay. If I could just shoot that woman, everything would be okay. It's always something, guys. If I could just get a job at the country club, if I could just get out of the food business and get something else, I'd get into sales. Who knew salesmen drank? Oh my God, and they have this thing called expense accounts, and it's like, oh my, it was, yeah. I'm bouncing around. Early 80s, one of my geographics, I moved back to Houston and married this little girl. She was a sweetheart. She was a cocktail waitress at a bar where my brother used to work for a while. And she was a sweetheart. And I drug her up to North Texas. I had a little barbecue restaurant and I sold it, walked away from it, didn't sell jack. I walked away from it, and I'm going to be up closer to Dallas to be closer to my brother. And we're twins, are a little close. And I got a job at a country club and bought a little house, and I got a new wife in the house decorating, and I should be the happiest man on earth, and I'm sitting on the front porch miserable, and I'm trying to watch my drinking. I'm trying to control it, and I've started doing some of these outside issues. This is early 80s. Everybody's doing outside issues early 80s. Just watch Miami Vice if you don't believe it. Everybody was running drugs back in the day. So anyway, I'm trying to be a good boy, but I'm miserable inside. And I've seen a doctor, and doctors got me on my first round of antidepressants, early 80s. And the old, yeah, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Yeah. Let me be the first to tell if you got any new people in here real quick. Depression is the #1 symptom of untreated alcoholism. Got nothing to do with drinking, guys. I'm just telling you, it will. Yeah, depression. And I ended up, came home one night, had a little pushing match with my wife. And I come from a family, we don't do that nonsense. And she asked me to leave, and I did. Came back a few hours later, she let me in the house, and she was pretty upset. And I remember I was pretty upset. I was embarrassed. I was not raised like that. And the conversation boiled down to, if you want to stay married to me, you're going to have to quit drinking. And she didn't know how much I was drinking, and she damn sure didn't know about the outside issues. And I mean, guys, I meant it. And I don't think I've done a talk in 30 years that I didn't say this. When I looked her in that face and told her that I was going to quit, I meant it with every fiber in my body. I get so tired of listening to these old bastards sitting in Alcoholics Anonymous meetings telling us every time we relapse, well, you must not have wanted it bad enough. I said, God, you don't have a clue, folks. I watch people come into treatment every day. They're dying to get well. I'll do anything. Talked to a guy on the phone this afternoon. Little guy, he's just all busted up from Nevada. Just really wanting some help. Yeah, he wants to get well. But unless somebody tells them how to get well, they're not going to get well. If you can get sober like my friend in high school, you're not one of us. If you could just stop, yeah. I went to AA meeting the next day, and nicest bunch of people you'll ever come across. I was up in North Texas, just sweethearts, and sitting in the rooms, and it was just fascinating. Listen to all the stories, and oh my God, yeah, I keep coming back, and I will. I'll see you tomorrow, and I keep coming back till my hair fell out. You know, it's all good. But guys, again, about 2 weeks into this, I start coming undone, and I'm irritable, restless. Now I'm the guy that was funny 2 weeks ago now is all of a sudden quite irritating. You know, just if I have to hear him talk about eating out of a dumpster one more time, I'm going to shoot him. You know, and this is all there is to it. And see, because I can't relate to that. And this is what I did. And I'd leave and I'd come back, and I'd leave and I'd come back. I did 7 years sitting in Alcoholics Anonymous doing that, folks. And I know there were some people up there that were carrying big books and knew the solution. I wasn't in the rooms with those people. There wasn't a big book in the place when I was trying to get sober. I didn't know what it was. 7 years in AA, I don't own a big book. I don't have a sponsor. I'm a meeting maker. Meeting makers make it. 90 meetings in 90 days. And I'd go to the meetings till I just wanted to die. And some of y'all can relate to that. Some of y'all can't. I'm not trying to be critical, guys. They were the sweethearts of people. I keep looking in here. Maybe in the trivia deal next week when we do this, we could do, show me the page that it says, if you'll go to a meeting every day, you'll stay sober. Now, I know it's got to be in here. I know it's got to be in here. But I haven't found it yet. And I'm a huge fan of meetings, guys. But if that's all we're doing is pushing that, we need to come up with something else. Let me tell you what happened with me. I'm watching it. The 7 years in, I'm done with, I've stopped going to AA pretty much. And I know it doesn't work. I've done everything that you guys have ever asked me to do. I've got a doctor. I'm on 7 prescription medications a day, all doctor prescribed. I'm not doctor shopping like some of you nice folks. I have real psychiatric disorders, and all looks exactly like untreated alcoholism is what it looks like. Anxiety, yeah, depression, yeah, let's get, and yeah, I'm sitting naked in sweat lodges. I go to church built like a pyramid, and God, I've done everything. Colonics, I was Roft. I've done everything, anything to try to get well. I'm in therapy. I've gone to IOP treatment. I'm got my triggers list. Oh my God, I'm ready. And oh God, I can't. Keep getting caught in these mental black spots. My head, I'll say I'm not going to drink, and 3 hours later, oh my gosh, I've just haven't, without much thought, I've drank again. And first wife's gone. I'm living by myself in a little apartment with 2 stinky ferrets. I come home one night and picked up a stack of return checks in the mail, and realized I bankrupted another checking account. I'm gonna have to go to my beautiful sister-in-law and borrow some money to cover a check. I'm 35. Y'all follow? 35 years old, living in a town I don't want to be in. I'm working. Thank God, my twin brother hired me to work in the bindery, or I had to be on the streets. And I just, I'm not digging my life. I got up and I took a couple of bottles of pills and decided I was going to check out. And about the time those pills hit my stomach, I heard a voice that said, "Don't do this." Excuse me. Just go back to AA. It's what the voice was telling me in my little head. I was not in a blackout. I was not drunk. Y'all understand? I was impaired. There's no question. Made myself sick, laid down on the side of the bed, and woke up the next morning with a conviction that I'd go back to AA. As luck would have it, you know how God's hands in it, I was going to go back to the old group that I'd been complaining about for years. Y'all understand? Yeah. And I was running late, couldn't go. I had to work late because a piece of equipment broke down that I've never seen break down before or since. And I'm working on it, and I had to go to this other meeting. Old guy in AA had showed me this meeting one time. He told me it was a big book meeting. And I went and walked in the back door, and this little girl stopped me from leaving the room. And I got real self-conscious to try to leave, and she stuck her finger in my belt loop. I always tell it. And she said, "Sit down, cowboy, you're not going anywhere." And I just like, what the fuck? What? And okay. Sat down, she got me a cup of coffee. chairperson had seen me in North Texas for years, and he's just shaking his head. He says, man, I'm glad you're back, man. Let's go around. And he kept looking at the steps on the wall. And he said, let's go around and talk about how our lives have changed as a result of working the steps. Now, I've been in AA, I've been to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of meetings. Y'all know, I've never heard that as a topic. I'd heard, let's tell Chris how you got here. Okay. I understand it. I know some of y'all go to groups like that. I am vehemently against it. Y'all can go. Okay. Because the underlying thing is, let's see if we can scare Chris into recovery. That's what they're saying. You know, but because you're telling your story and I've got this little mental checklist in my head. Nope, never done that. No, no, never done that. You know, say I must not be an alcoholic. They didn't do that with me that night. They went around and talked about getting their credit cards back and talked about buying a car. And the guy right across me started a little business, a little landscape business. And he was all excited about making a little money and paying off some debt. And the lady at the end of the table had gone back to art school and she was all excited. And I was excited watching them. Into the meeting, the guys asked me if I wanted to stay sober a day at a time. And I picked up what was going to be my last desired chip. Who knew? It's in the closet right behind me. And I was like, oh man. I picked up his chip and I said, I was feeling pretty good. I said, boy, these guys, y'all realize I'm less than 24 hours away from a suicide attempt. And these guys gave me the one thing I needed more, which was hope. You know, I mean, why do we want people to come? So you can not drink one day at a time. Well, buddy, I have experience to show you that not drinking one day at a time is hell, is just torture. It's misery. I can't get excited about that. I can get excited about buying a new car, starting a little business, going back to school. And that's what this is about. Doing life. Oh man. I can't wait to go to Vegas next week. 2 weeks from now, Thanksgiving, we get to go to Vegas for a cool little AA conference out there in Vegas. And then Patty and I go out there I spoke at it one year, and actually I had a couple of years, and we've been going back ever since. It's just a wonderful bunch of people. You go to Vegas as an alcoholic? Yes. As a recovered alcoholic, we can do whatever the heck we want to go do. Come on now. Anyway. These two old guys got me to get to where I'm going. These two old guys got me after the meeting, and they stopped me. They said, Chris, sit with us for a few minutes. Let's see if we can help you figure out why you can't stay sober. And I'm a little indignant, guys. I've got psychiatrists on board. Y'all understand, therapists, doctors. These are all people trying to help me stay sober. Now, this old country bumpkin is gonna help me figure this out. Yeah. Don't think for a second that you guys have got it figured out who's going to help you on this spiritual path. It's usually not the person you think is good it's going to be. It's that little guy sitting out in the backyard with a goddamn mohawk and tattoos all over his face and piercings and goddamn, oh my God, yeah. And then you listen to him in a meeting, he flies a zinger past you and you go, what the, where did that come from? Yeah, God is good. I got to tell you. They sat down with me and opened the book. We didn't start on the title page and start reading, guys. I know a lot of you guys have sponsors that do that. Nowhere in the book does it say for us to do that. He cherry picked it. It was me, two guys, and they sat down, they opened it, and they showed me the doctor's opinion up front where it talked about the physical craving, just like Matt was talking about. And then on 23 to 43, Envision for You, more about alcoholism, it talked about the mental obsession. It showed me that great page on 24 where it says, we have lost the power of choice in drink. Holy shit. And I'm looking at this and I'm getting tense. Y'all follow? I'm talking, my little butt starting to pucker. I was like, all of a sudden, I'm getting it, you know, I'm getting it. I said, oh my God, I'm an alcoholic. He talked about the spiritual malady and the discomfort when we're not drinking. Boy, I started crying right there. I mean, I went home that night with tears in my eyes, knowing for the first time what was wrong with me. Guys, I'd called myself an alcoholic since high school. I didn't have a problem calling myself it. I didn't know what it meant to be an alcoholic. I can't tell you how many thousands of people I've come across in my years of sobriety who had the same experience. My phone hadn't shut up since dawn this morning. People wishing me happy birthday, and oh my God, it just, looking at this room. God, I know so many of y'all in here. It's just the absolute coolest. But so many of these folks that I get emails from and texts from are people who had the same experience. They're sitting in the rooms dying. They want to get well, but nobody will work with them. Nobody will show them what's in the literature. This is the program. It's what Bill Wilson said. This is the program. The lid. We started doing the work. They told me, he says, Chris, you can recover from alcoholism. If you'll do this work quick, like they did in the olden timers. They actually did read the forward to the second edition, just like, yeah, it was beautiful readings that y'all did in front of that meeting. I'm going to be back at this meeting. I got to tell you that. I mean, but they talked about the number of people, the people that were getting well back then when they were doing this work. And they said, Chris, if you do this work quick, you can get placed in that position of neutrality, safe and protected. Let's go. And the next morning, they showed me how to make a pot of coffee, and we went to a 10 o'clock meeting, and we got in the back room, and I had done a first step that night. Y'all understand? I didn't have to read all 60 pages. They cherry picked it for me. I read it. They got me a book. I didn't have a book. And then I've got a little quick outline that I use with my guys on the first step. If any of you want it, I'll send it to you. I'll put my email in that chat, and you guys can email me, and I'll send it to you. It's funny. I mean, it's just real quick, but because it had been long. Because y'all, the minute I set that beer down, y'all understand that the clock starts ticking, right? For my next relapse. The window's closing, the window's closing. Oh, you waited too long. Oh, but we were working on fourth step. We were working on the first step. We were working, finish it. Bill Wilson's making his amends from Towns Hospital, for God's sake, on his 9th day of detox. What are we doing? Well, we're going to take a year to work the steps. Well, no, we're not. Let's go quick. Why do I want you to wait? We went, they bought me lunch. We did a little third step prayer in the back, and they took me to lunch, came back, gave me a little notebook. They said, Chris, we're going to start you on this little fourth step. You go home and we'll see you tomorrow at the meeting. And we want to be working on this little fourth step. A week and a half, 2 weeks later, I've got a completed fourth step. I've got it, had it completed before that. My sponsor's out of town. I can't dump a fifth step yet, but I'm sitting on the tailgate of my truck, and it dawns on me that the obsession to use is lifted. And y'all realize, I'm speaking to this group. Come on, guys. I know a lot of y'all have, because I know y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. You remember that moment when you realize that you're not fighting it. I don't want to drink today, one day at a time. It's not, you've been placed in that position of neutrality, and you're just comfortable in your skin. And everybody seems to think that takes forever for it to happen. It doesn't. God's grace is continual, folks. Our job is just get connected to that power. How do we get connected to the power? We work the steps. Why would we want to take our time to do that? I work in the treatment business, guys. I've done clerical work in treatment for 30 years. I'm just saying, guys, it's my one bone to pick with treatment centers. They removes the urgency to finish this work. You know, they get all cleaned up and all nice, and everything's just fine, and they leave. If they could get connected to a group like this, they'd do okay. But a lot of them don't. So these guys, about 2 weeks in, I've had that spiritual experience. I'm sitting there just all glittered, and the old guy that 12-stepped me that night came up and says, Chris, we got a group conscience. I'm coming, I got 5 minutes. Group conscience is coming up next week, and we want to nominate you as chairman of the cleanup committee. Shit. I'm not remotely interested in being your cleanup chairman or whatever it is. And they said, well, come to it anyway. And I went to my first group conscience. AA for 7 years, never been to a group conscience, never done any service. I'm going to take responsibility, folks, but I'm going to tell you, nobody ever offered it to me. Okay. I went in there, there's about 40 people, 30 people in there, maybe. And they unanimously voted. First business, they unanimously voted me in as chairman of the cleanup committee. You know how it is. 1 minute I want to straighten my tie, and the next minute I want to shoot him. I just like, what did you just do to me? And I went in after the meeting, the guy's cleaning up in there, and that was that old geezer was in there. And he says, God, Chris, thank you for taking that job. That's just so good. And he said, buddy, could I have maybe a list of my other committee members so I can start organizing a cleaning rotation for the club? And he spit coffee clear across the kitchen. He said, Chris, there's no committee. You're the janitor here. Okay, you're the cleanup guy. All right, here's the keys. Here's Mr. Hoover. Okay, clean up stuff. Bye-bye. I stayed away for 2 days. I was going to punish them, and I went back in on a Friday night, and I'm going to go fast with this, but I cleaned that club like a big dog. Friday afternoon, my brother let me off work, and I locked myself in that club, and guys, I know how to, I'm in the food, I know how to clean. Those chairs set up perfectly, all that brown stuff in them coffee pots, and that AA bathroom. What is it about AA bathrooms? What if you drop something on the floor, you little whippersnappers, you pick it up and put it in the trash. Still drives me crazy. I'm sitting there at 5:30 or so, coffee's made, ready for the 6 o'clock meeting. People start coming in. Matriarch of the group walks in. I told this at Founders Day a couple of years ago, guys. I can't not tell it. She slid in. She's about this tall. Y'all follow? She's maybe 2 feet tall, and she looks like a little question mark. She's as old as Methuselah, and she's sliding into the kitchen. She starts squealing in the kitchen, and she looked around the corner, and she's got that look. She said, "Oh my God!" She said, "Did you clean this place?" It's just me and her in the place. I'm sitting there in my little Fruit of the Loom t-shirt, soaking wet. I said, yes, ma'am. And she snuck up around me, behind me, got her little bony arm around my neck, and I can still feel her voice on my cheek. And she just said, "Boy, we need you here." She gave me a little back hug. About 3 weeks away from a suicide attempt. Not because I was drunk, not because I was in trouble, because I felt absolutely useless. And this lady, guys, I just hope everybody out there, if you're new, you get an opportunity to get into a group where they don't spend all day long telling you what you can't do. I just want to scream sometimes. I go to these, you can't date for a year. You can't get this done. You can't make any major changes. You can't do this. You can't do that. This is not what this book says. It doesn't. Came time to start a little business, they were there. One of my favorite deals I want to mention, guys, read it before I go. Bottom of page 129, even if he displays a certain amount of neglect and irresponsibility towards the family, it is well to let him go as far as he likes in helping other alcoholics. During those first days of convalescence, this will do more to ensure his sobriety than anything else. So get it? During those first days of convalescence, okay, that means detox. Nothing will so much help him stay sober as intensive work with other alcoholics. Bill Wilson spends the whole chapter 7 talking about working with others. See, guys, nobody would let me. You're not sober long enough to help anybody. You can't even help yourself. How can you help somebody else? See, that's the problem. I help you, and God helps me. That's how this thing works. And it doesn't mean that at 2 weeks sober, I could go do a workshop or but they taught me how to chair a meeting. And they taught me how to make coffee, and they got me on the stupid cleanup committee, so I could be in there at the end of the meetings with a little newcomer sitting there all scared all by himself. And I could plop down next to him. Hey, you got a big book? Here we go. Y'all thought, no. All right. I got the key to the cabinet. Come on, let's get you one. Everybody wants to complicate this, folks. Everybody wants to go out of their way to try. Oh, this is a complicated. It's not. Bill Wilson understood it. If y'all get a chance to go to Akron, stand in the Mayflower Hotel. They've remodeled it. You get right there where Bill Wilson walked out of the elevator. Bill Wilson walks right out of there, and he's got to make a decision. I'm going to go down to the bar and have a drink. I'm broke. I need a friend, or am I going to go find a drunk to work with? He's about 6 months sober. And he says, read it in language of the heart. It says, I knew I needed another alcoholic as much as that alcoholic could need me. Damn. And he goes and finds, guess who? Dr. Bob, the next day. But because he was calling Henrietta Seiberling, he was organizing this whole meeting thing. He was staying sober. That obsession to drink lifted. Come on, guys. We need all the help we can get in the rooms. I got to say this and end up. And I do get emotional every time I get a birthday, because I was a kid that I was in AA 7 years and couldn't get a 30-day chip. And to get 35 years it just freaks me out. I never saw so many people out there right now, folks, thanks to COVID, who have come in, especially people with double-digit sobriety, who wouldn't get on Zooms, Y'all follow? You can't bond with people on Zooms. Don't, the heck you can't. You sure can. But the people that didn't want to or didn't know how to work a Zoom, whatever, I understand, but whatever, they pulled away from the meetings. And that was where their sobriety rested, was in the meetings. And a lot of them got loaded. I never saw more double-digit sobriety get loaded in my 35 years than I have in the last 2 years, thanks to COVID. And these guys are coming back in like deer in the headlight, like what the hell happened? Let me tell you what happened, folks. We got complacent. We stopped doing the same things that I'm supposed to do. My first 30 days sober, I'm still doing today. Not perfectly still, learning new things all the time. But my life continues to change, folks. And the spiritual warfare that we all deal with, folks, is that little voice that says, I'm too old, I'm too stupid, I don't have time. Guys, everybody's going to change. You can't sponsor a gazillion guys sometimes. You can't go to a meeting every day sometimes. You just do what you can do. Suit up and show up and try to be as helpful as you can be. And all of a sudden the miracle takes place and God will use you. You get in the trench with us and help us dig. I guarantee you, God's going to use you. And you never know who's God's going to use to change your life. And I'm saying it again, I've ended 1,000 talks with it. Every one of you in here, we need you. There's some people that can hear the message from me better than anybody out there. There's some people that run from me like they can't get away fast enough. You know, and that nice, quiet little lady in the corner that you think is not even paying attention, that's the one they're going to hear it from. Everybody's going to use their talents and what they've got to bring to the table to help change somebody's life. There is no more love I've ever seen in my entire life than in a room of Alcoholics Anonymous, especially when there's a bunch of stupid big books laying around. Thanks, guys. I appreciate y'all letting me come tonight.